Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Things that weren't scary at the time, but in retrospect were terrifying. Stories that happened to you and weren't scary when they happened. But when you think back on them, they're pretty scary. Paranormal, not paranormal. Whatever. Just stories that freak you out now. Be me, age 10 probably. Family on vacation in Arizona. Flagstaff, Phoenix, can't remember. Mom, dad, brother, and myself, hanging out by the pool, probably 8 or 9 at night. Vacation, so we get to stay up late. Brother, 13, and I want some ice cream. Ask the parental unit if we can walk down to a Dairy Queen a few buildings down from the motel. Parents say sure, not too far away, so not worried about something happening. Must have been the weekend since the streets were pretty busy even at night. Parents give us the money. We get the ice cream, then start walking back. Just outside our motel, some old guy in a truck stops and asks to talk to us. Cowboy hat, cowboy boots, thick black mustache. Asks weird questions about the motel. Is there a TV? Yes. Lamps? Yes. Do they have a bathroom? Yes. Starts getting kind of close, but we hadn't really gotten weirded out yet since we're dumb kids. He asks a few more weird questions before Dad comes out looking for us. Guy stops talking, gets back in his truck and leaves. I got a huge lecture the next day about not talking to strangers and shit. My brother and I were almost kidnapped.
Be me, about 15 or 16 years old. School day ends, I change out of my PE uniform and leave. Lots of people outside. Suddenly someone falls down. Looks like he has a heart attack or a stroke. Seems to be in extreme pain. He can't breathe and is just spasming out on the floor on the verge of death. It's my school's principal. Feel nothing. No pain. No empathy or fear. Decide it would be best to just call an ambulance. Call an ambulance and tell them what is going on and where. Walk home as if nothing had happened. The next day I found out that he died before the ambulance arrived. What was especially strange was that people were just walking by as if nothing happened. There was the principal lying on the floor, dying. And they just walked by as if it was none of their business. Everyone was like this. It was really strange. It was also strange, of course, that I had no empathy or fear in that situation. Probably because of shock or something. I only called an ambulance because I thought it would be the most logical step.
Be 4 or 5 years old. I lived in a 2-story house. The stairs are located in a separate hallway at the end of the house, and there were doors at the top and bottom. At the top of the stairs behind the door there is a window. I remember this entire experience so detailed and vividly. Whenever I think back to it, it feels like I'm there watching it happen all over again. I'm standing at the very top of the stairs. Take 3 steps forward and jump. The light is shining brightly through the window, and the entire staircase is illuminated. My mother is carrying laundry upstairs, and I just fly right past her. I manage to jump down the entire staircase and land at the bottom unharmed. My dad walks into the hall and just looks at me confused. I am so happy. I have never been more completely ecstatic than in that one moment. You would need to be an Olympic long jumper to ever stand a chance at jumping down those stairs, let alone not shattering both of your legs on impact. It was a long staircase. I tried to recreate this all the time by jumping off the steps, starting from the first and continuing up. I never associated the two together. I forgot about trying to recreate the jump and eventually just thought I did it for fun. This ended when I was around 10. Attempted to jump from top, made it halfway, ate shit and broke an arm and a leg. Now at the time nobody involved thought anything of this, like it never even happened. Years later when I'm 16 or so, my parents were telling me stories of when I was a kid, and suddenly I remembered the stair incident and asked them about it. Before this, I barely even remembered what happened. I just knew I'd jumped off the stairs and my parents were there. As soon as I asked, it's like something clicked in all of our heads and both my parents and me could explain what happened, with extreme accuracy and detail. It isn't exactly scary looking back at it, but it still just really weirds me out. This one happened when I was around 10. Bit of background on this one: as a kid I was always afraid to go upstairs alone. I really don't know why. I guess it's because of the stairs being closed off, so to a child it probably felt like you were trapped. It was also always so quiet up there, like dead silent. There was also the computer up there which I had to sneak on to use. When I was young, I found one of those jump scare videos on YouTube. Traumatized the shit out of me. Anyways, sitting on the couch playing on my Game Boy or some shit. Waiting for someone to go upstairs so I can play with my toys because parents would get annoyed if I asked. Suddenly see my dad sprint from down the hallway past the couch and up the stairs with the stair doors slamming shut behind him. Happy as hell when I run up the stairs after him. It seems he closed both of the doors for some reason, and the stairway light was turned off. Normally I would be spooked, but if my dad is upstairs, it's all good. Get upstairs. Absolutely dead silent. I'm confused and search around the rooms, but nope, my dad is nowhere. No lights on. Dead silent. Not even footprints in the carpet. Nothing. I'm not even freaked out. I'm just confused, so I go down the stairs and ask my mom where Dad is. My dad is right next to my mom in the kitchen. Being a little kid, I don't question what just transpired. I brought it up with my parents years later, and all they remember is the doors shutting and then me jumping off the couch, opening the doors and running upstairs only to come back down later asking for my dad. In retrospect, the entire thing should have been setting off red lights in my head. First off, my dad I saw was just a human-looking shadow, like just a pitch-black, blurry figure. My dad was running extremely fast and made no noise at all in doing so. The doors closed behind him without him touching them. This one still really creeps me out, and I know for a fact that's what I saw.
1999. 6 years old at the Russian River Music Festival in California's Bay Area. Outdoor music festival next to the river. Hundreds of people camped out there for the day, eating, drinking, swimming, etc. Coming back from the kiddie area where I was playing with inner tubes, I started cutting through the crowd back to where I knew my parents were at. Passed by a very large tent with a flap kind of door with Velcro. I couldn't see through it. A woman and a man sitting in the canopy beneath it in chairs. Assume they are husband and wife. Remember now that they looked like a mid-30-ish blonde white couple. Woman looks up at me as I'm walking past, gives out a laugh and kind of barks of joy, like a really exaggerated version of noise when a woman sees something cute. She says, "Oh my God, you're just the most adorable little boy ever. I just want to eat you up. Sweetie, isn't he just lovely?" Looks over at her husband, and he's just reclined, but looking at me silently. He just nods. She looked back at me, smiling, and started saying I should come inside and meet her kids. Something about the way she talked, and the guy not talking just weirded me out even as a kid. But then it escalated. Right after she said I should meet her kids, she reached out and grabbed my arm and tried to pull me in under their canopy. I freaked the fuck out and squirmed out of her grip and just booked it. Heard her shouting after me but couldn't make it out, just ran back to parents' tent. Get there out of breath and wide-eyed. They asked me why I ran in. I just made something up about a spider. I don't know why. Never told them about it. I may have just been paranoid. I had no basis for thinking anything bad of them. But when I think about that now, I wonder if I had been that close to being kidnapped. It's a weird thought.
Forgot this happened to me until I read this thread. Be me age 12. My older brother is 15 and into hunting. Begs our dad to hire a local hunting dude to take us quail hunting. 4 of us in a huge field by road. Me, older bro, dad, hunting dude, and his dog. After a few dead quail, I realize this isn't my thing. Feet hurt, wish I was at home playing video, etc. Decide to chill by truck and wait for them to finish. A strange truck pulls up really slowly. Realize my family is like 2 miles away. Can see them, but small dots in distance. I don't know why, but I get a really sketchy feeling and climb onto the truck bed and grab the 20 gauge I was using to shoot quail earlier. Pretty sure I didn't have any ammo, as the hunting dude relieved me of it when I headed for the truck, but felt safer holding it. The truck stops right next to me. The driver's an older-looking man, starts asking me what I'm doing out here, etc., He is being really nice and friendly, which calms me, but he doesn't leave. Keeps asking me questions and stuff. I'm still holding the shotgun with absolutely no intention of using it. Eventually, the truck man drives off right as I hear my dad yelling my name in the distance. We went home and ate quail. Could have just been a local property owner checking us out or something, I guess.
Be me, 10 or 12 years old max, Greek. Be at the furthest place in northern Greece. Borders with Albania in front of me with a guard keeping us away. Guard says we should not go any further because it is a place full of old mine lands from World War II. LOL who gives a damn .png. Gets excited for no reason .avi. I jumped through the border and started running through the place while everyone was screaming at me. Got back alive, but thinking of it today still makes me kick. Another one, kind of similar. Be me, 10 or 12 again. Vacations with family. Hotel in the mountains, 5 minutes from the village. Find an almost petrified object at the mountain that has the shape of a cylinder. Assume it is a cologne. Start to play with it, touch it, press it, friend comes. We start to throw it at each other. Just let it near the hotel and go to do something else finally. My face when next day some army guys came to pick this item super ultra carefully, like step to step, 'cause it was a fucking grenade from Greek Civil War.
This thread's pretty dead, but whatever. Maybe someone will read it. First story, not spoopy, just screwed up. Be 10 with bro who's 4 years older, in the woods pushing over near dead trees. Fun shit, hillbilly shit, but fun nonetheless. He pushes over a large dead tree, breaks halfway up, like a jagged edge break, snapped at an angle. 10-foot spear falls at my brother and hits only his shirt and tears it completely off, like ripped down the middle. I didn't think much of it and just said, "Whoa, look at your shirt." He says, "Let's go back." A few years later, I think about it and realize my brother almost got impaled in front of me. Not religious, but just said thank you aloud for whoever was keeping an eye on us. The creepy one now. I have an imaginary friend, full-blown, like playing cards and board games together. Was about 4 or 5 years old. Talk about Karrie. That's how it was spelt for real, all the time to my parents. Get absolutely livid at my parents if they say she's not real. Odd it's a she since I'm a boy. Literally my best friend, and I was completely normal, and always have been normal besides this. Swing with her, play with her, just have a blast. Bros give me shit for it, and laugh. I'd have lots of wild dreams, hear shit tapping in the basement where my room was, I hear laughing in the washing machine area. Karrie leaves, start having an irrational fear of my basement. No longer can stand the dark. Start sleeping on the living room couch for the next 3 years. Have absurd nightmares, really violent or horrifying monstrosities trying to get me. Hide in the closet when home alone. Constantly hear footsteps in the house. All between the ages of 4 or 5 to 12. Stops. Haven't had anything irrational happen in a long time. Very rarely does the imaginary friend even come to mind. Still innately fearful of the dark. I don't know. Weird mishmash there, but god damn, crazy stuff. Odd thing was, through childhood and high school, I was really athletic and a boy genius, so I have a hard time believing I was a little schizo.
I honestly never thought much about this until I told a few friends at dinner about it, and they were all really creeped out. Childhood home, down a long driveway, forest and pond behind the house. My parents let me play back there all day. On a typical day, I'd play in the trees behind my house, cross the stream behind my neighbor's, pass the field behind his house, and climb up a steep hill behind a condo complex. I loved going behind the condos because it overlooked the pond and was hidden by trees. One day I crossed the field and I am about to go up the hill. There's a person standing at the top, staring down at me. They have a gray hoodie with the hood pulled up, can't see their face, can make out some black hair coming out. Get a strong feeling to just go home, as the person just stands there watching me. End up going home. Last time I ever played back there alone. I never thought much of it. Other than the sense of, it was probably just someone from the condos. But it creeps me out in retrospect.
Be me in the 2000 suburbs in Missouri. I was about 7 or so and had a childhood friend named Andrew. He was always bigger and beefier than me, and he was always an asshole. A real Sid from Toy Story type kid. His room was littered in broken toys and trash. He used to always play Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo, I believe it was, or maybe PS1. And my parents never let me. He was a really sadistic kid. Hurting his pets, that kind of stuff, I don't really care. I'm 7 years old and he's my friend from across the street. We used to have these woods behind my house. It sprawled away from the suburbs and had a creek in it. There was another neighborhood, maybe half a mile on the other side of the woods, used to go back there and build forts with all the kids of the neighborhood, and the neighborhood being us. One day I became better friends with some of the other neighborhood kids, and we started building a really cool fort. We even started a fire to cook shit on. Andrew sees this and gets mad. He's jealous as him, and I had our own fort. After a while, he takes a few kids from the neighborhood and starts a Sweeto faction to combat ours. We fight with Nerf guns and sticks and shit. Rough housing. One day we delivered a crushing defeat to Andrew, and he was visibly mad. We took over Turtle Creek, which was a part of the creek where two hills met and was filled with a boggy-type area. We always caught turtles there, hence the name. Andrew storms home, and I decide to go geode hunting with some of the other kids, breaking rocks open with hammers. The next day, Andrew shows up at my front door and asks if I want to play army with him. Says he found a way to beat us. I say sure, excited at the prospect of another fun day in the woods. Except it was just him and I. I tell him I'm going to go get my camo net. Just a net that was camo covered. I don't know. It was used for hunting and I still have it. While I'm going to go get my net, he's waiting in my living room with a backpack. My parents, being some sort of wizards, decide to search the bag. A loaded 9mm handgun, 3 kitchen knives, 4 throwing stars, and a small pistol-like crossbow with ammo. I come out and Andrew is steaming mad. He's looking at me with hatred as I fumble with the net in my hand. My parents took him over to his house to talk to his parents. His dad was a cop, and this was his service pistol. Upon retrieving it, his father exclaims to Andrew, and I'll never forget this quote, "Andrew, I told you not to play with guns outside the fucking house." Andrew was 7 years old and was going to murder me for having a cooler fort. I have a few more stories about Andrew that happened over the course of my childhood. We were always enemies after that day, until he moved away right before 6th grade.
Work as a nurse in a long-term care facility. Old folks' home. People die all the time. Get used to it. One of the residents had been declining for a while now. She gets started on hospice and gets all the do not resuscitate, do not intubate, and do not hospitalize orders. She has a private room way in the back of the unit. Used to go in that room and sleep while I worked the night shifts, and she liked me, so she would never report me for doing it. And she had this recliner her family brought from home that would lay flat that she never used in our facility. Go in to sleep like I normally do. At this point, the resident is nonverbal and hasn't taken in any PO fluids for a few days. Lay back and fall asleep. Wake up to a voice talking to me. Look over, and the resident is sitting on the side of the bed as straight as an arrow. She's talking about how good I was to her, and how she's sorry I won't be able to sleep in her chair when she dies. Spooked out for sure, being this woman hasn't talked in weeks. Lay her back down and fluff her up with some bullshit about sleeping in her room for years to come. Walk back to the nursing station to write some notes. No more than 5 minutes later, a certified nursing assistant calls me back to check on the dying lady. Not only is she dead, but stone cold dead, room temperature dead for at least 2 hours. More I think about it, the more I freak out.
Around age 4 or 5, I finally have my own room, active as hell imagination. Seriously, give me a box, and I have 6 months of fun to have. Spend all my time playing with imaginary friends. Play until I had to go to bed. The room has this walk-in closet almost as big as the room itself. Every night, another imaginary friend would pop out. Jazz the monkey. Looks like one of those stereotypical sock doll monkeys. Everyone goes to bed and I'd stay up waiting. After a while, my closet door opens and out pops Jazz. We'd dance and play for a while. I'd tell Jazz secrets, talk, and do general buddy stuff. Eventually, Jazz would dare me to do something. He'd lead me to the landing above the foyer, and he'd say something like, "Bet you can't balance on the railing for 30 seconds. I'd say, "No, that's dangerous." "No, it's not. Watch." Jazz hops up on the railing and dances for a bit. I'd still say, "No, cause falling off would hurt." Jazz would get all sad and walk back to my room. We'd play a bit more. After a while, Jazz would say he has to go. Every time before he'd go, he would ask if I wanted to go back to the closet with him. Says it's lonely in there or something along those lines. Says we could play all day and no one would find us. Every time he did, I had this nagging feeling I had to get back to bed or I'd be in serious trouble. I can't. I'm supposed to sleep in my bed, not the closet, or something similar. Antics he'd have me try would be stuff like him jumping out the window. He'd phase through and say I could do it too if I tried. He'd jump off the landing onto the foyer and dare me to do it as well. Every night he'd ask if I could go into the closet with him. Not actually sure when it stopped, and, in retrospect, scares the absolute piss out of me. Mentioned it one time, and my sisters, one's 8 and the other's 10 years older than me, said they had the same deal, but one was a stuffed bee who told her she could fly, or a rhino that told her to wreck stuff.
17, working in a family-owned pizzeria. The owners were nice, but their son was a drug addict piece of shit. Would come by once every few months and bum off his parents. Everyone hated him, but the parents wanted to help. One night is just me and the old man closing. Old man is sick. Tell him to take off. I can close up shop. Thanks, Anon, I really appreciate it. Yeah, go on. Me and the other workers were like the children they wanted, so he trusted me to close and not steal. While closing, the drug addict's son comes knocking on the door. Tell him to leave. Hey, fuck you, man. It's my birthright to the place, you can't tell me what to do. He's got a burlap sack. Tell him he can't bring it in here, 'cause I know he'll steal. He forces his way in, like kicks the door down. He was a pretty big dude, and I wasn't, so I'm backing up, knowing he could probably break me in half. I get a knife from the kitchen, holding him at bay with it. Somebody must have heard the argument and called the cops, who arrested him for breaking and entering. Pat him down. He's got a ball-peen hammer and hunting knife in his pants. Add a charge of carrying a weapon and threatening me for good measure. The owners are disappointed in him, but understand why I did what I did. Fast forward 2 years. In college, taking a criminal justice class. The professor is a former homicide detective and tells us all kinds of stories. One case where a worker broke into a kitchen he worked at to steal steaks and booze, walked in on a night cleaner, and killed him with a kitchen knife. Disemboweled him. When they flipped him over, his guts spilled out. Have a flashback to that night. That could have been me.
I had an experience here in Arkansas at a payphone. I was calling a friend to let him know that my phone had died and that I was on the way over to his place. It was past midnight and we were getting some stuff ready for a camping trip we were going to take, so I didn't want to show up unannounced. After I finished the call, I turned to go get back to my car, which was parked right on the curb by the payphone, and there was this woman standing by my car. She was a little tall, around 5'8", I guess, with thick, dark, slightly curly and wavy hair, and had a dark-colored poncho on, a loose skirt with beads and tassels, sunglasses, and a scarf tied up around her mouth and nose, only leaving a little bit of her face and skin visible. I started walking towards her and asked her if she needed a ride and how long she'd been waiting to use the phone, and I apologized to her for taking so long. It only took a few minutes, but I was trying to be nice. She said something really softly, and as I got closer to her, I noticed that her skin was clammy and pallid, sort of disconcertingly pale for what I assumed to be a Hispanic woman because of the hair and dress. I got about 5 feet away from her and I started to smell rotting flesh, similar to the smell of a stray dog that curls up and dies under your porch or house. At this point, I was getting freaked out and stopped getting closer, so I asked her again if she needed help or anything, and I was met with a quiet speech that I couldn't understand. I asked again, and she started getting a little louder. At first it seemed to be broken Spanish, and she just kept on talking in this broken Spanish, not saying any real words, just sort of pronouncing common sounds like someone pretending to speak the language. The entire time she's been speaking, she's been shaking, jittering around like she's cold. But it was only 60 degrees out and she had plenty of layers on. Now I'm really starting to get worried about this situation, and I tell her that I really have to go and that I don't think I can help her. After saying this, she stiffens up and takes a clumsy step towards me, getting louder with her pseudo-Spanish gibberish. I step back and tell her I don't understand her. She stops speaking for a moment and then she lurches forward again, this time saying, "Ayúdame, help me slowly." But the voice is no longer feminine, it's purely inhuman. It sounds like she's not just saying it once, but multiple times, echoing over itself. She begins repeating this, getting louder and louder until she's just gurgling and shouting at me, "Ayúdame, help me." At this point I bolt. Forget the car, I can come back for it later, and my friend lives only a few blocks away. I get there quickly. When I take off, she starts lumbering after me, stumbling and tripping over herself, like she'd never tried to run before. The street is completely quiet now, except for the sounds of my shoes hitting pavement and the echoes of her screaming, which has now devolved into a snarling, heaving, panting sound. I start making quick ground on her strained gait, and I hear something I hadn't noticed before, the sound of flesh hitting pavement, not shoes but skin and muscle and bone, thudding and slapping against pavement after me. I look back and she's hunched over, chasing me, hands trailing over the sidewalk. Looking back forward, I run off into an alleyway and towards a bar I know is open, hoping to find some sort of safety from whatever it was following me. As I make the final turn out of the alleyway and back onto the main street where the bar is, I look back and see it clawing toward me on all fours, silent except for the slapping of skin on the ground. Once I made it in the doorway of the bar, which had a half-dozen people in it at most, I went straight to a booth away from the door and sat down, waving off the bartender, telling him I just needed a minute to think about what I wanted. A couple of minutes later, I hear the door to the bar open but not close. The few sitting at the bar turn and look at whatever is visible in the door, and the same smell from earlier permeates the air, rotting flesh. The bartender looked the doorway up and down and asked, "Do you need any help?" The bar got quiet and then the mumbling came back, but this time a soft, slightly slurred no, and the door closed. Whatever having been in the doorway had gone back outside. I get some water and ask for a phone call from the bartender to call my friend to pick me up. When my friend had got there and we went to leave, I noticed a little drip of fresh blood on the floor, where she must have been standing in the doorway, and a little more outside and dripping back, tracing the path I took. Needless to say, I made sure we got the hell out of there, ASAP. After my friend had brought me back home and I'd told him the story, we ended up not going camping, that being thoroughly spooked. I feel blessed every day that whatever that was didn't catch me, and that I haven't seen or experienced anything like it again.
Sounds more like you had a run-in with a meth head than a skinwalker.
I've lived in Missouri for 20 years. Can confirm meth heads are creepy.
Nobody will believe it anyway. When I was around 14, I lived in a village in Germany. As I moved from another village nearby, I often went there to visit friends. To do so, the quickest way, by foot over some hills and farmland. In total, the distance isn't even 3 kilometers. On a cloudy and dark day, then it happened that I saw a flying saucer, not even 10 meters above me, for a good 20 to 30 seconds. It looked exactly like it does in the movies. Only difference is that it had a lot of lights around it, small ones. Comparing their size on the UFO, it'd be around the size of stoplights on a car. They were in all different colors and shined frequently like disco lights. It was very weird. It was flying more or less circles around me. It went very quickly from one direction to another, stood there for a couple of seconds, and then it went again into another direction. Like I said, this went on for like half a minute before it vanished into thin air. I didn't feel threatened at any time. It was just unreal. Never before and after did something similar happen to me.
Disclaimer that I am a /K/and/O/ browser mostly. I'm not a believer in the paranormal, and pretty much come to this board for the spoopy and creepypasta. 8 or 9-year-old me. Live in a 100-plus-year-old bungalow in Florida. Wake up in the middle of the night. The house is pitch black. Dad was a computer programmer and would stay up till around 3 learning new languages, so it had to be around 3 or 5 a.m. The bedroom looks out into the hallway and can see the kitchen past the living room. At the doorway to the kitchen, I see a whitish-blue figure. It just stands there, doesn't move or make a sound. Go back to sleep and forget about it over the years. Fast forward to this year. I'm now 24. Me, my girl, and one of my friends rent the house I grew up in from my parents. The same house I saw whatever it was all those years ago. One Friday night, me and my girlfriend are getting ready to go out to the bar. Roommate is at work. The room adjacent to my bedroom is what we call the den. Light is on in the den as we are getting ready in our room. All of a sudden, the audible click of the light switch comes from the den and the light goes out. Like I mentioned above, I am a /K/browser, so this sets off all my alarms. The light switch is in off position now. Grab my handgun and clear the house, every damned nook and cranny. The door was locked. No one in the house except me and my girlfriend. Get the idea that my roommate got home early and is messing with me. Haha, Anon, very funny, where are you? No response. Check outside. His car is not there. Intense goosebumps. A few months later, my girlfriend wakes me up in the middle of the night freaking out, saying that someone is standing at the foot of our bed. Instinctively come out of a dead sleep and grab my gun, ready to fuck some shit up. Nothing there. She swears to this day a human silhouette was standing by our bed. So yeah, if I wasn't a skeptic, I'd be pretty sure my house was haunted.
505 here. Happened back when I was in high school, but a buddy came over and we got drunk and played Xbox. Walk my buddy out as he is about to leave to smoke a cig. Insanely drunk native dude walks up on us and just drunkenly talks with us and bums a cig from my friend. No bad vibes from the guy or anything. He was just really drunk and annoying, so my buddy leaves and I just go to bed. Woke up later in the morning and my dad was asking if I was woken up earlier from someone ringing the doorbell and trying to get in the house. I guess the dude was still drunk around 7/8 a.m. and came back to my apartment and thought it was his and was trying to open the door and get in, so my dad called the cops on him. Like 3 months later, I befriended the neighbors upstairs from my apartment and they asked if I was home when the cops came that night, and they saw some native dude run past my apartment and drop a knife in the bushes right outside my door. I guess he never got caught and slept in his car until he woke up and thought my apartment was his. Not sure if me and my friend talked to him before or after he possibly murdered somebody.
Be me 8 years old. Wake up to go piss it's like 5 a.m. The bathroom is beside the bedroom. Hear a crash downstairs. Go down to where I heard the noise because my fight or flight reflex made me do the stupidest thing. Nobody's downstairs. Windows and doors are shut and locked. Must have been the wind.jpg. As I'm going back upstairs, hear another crash in the closet beside the stairwell. Idiot move again. Open the closet door. Nothing's there. I realized a bike helmet and my hike that were hanging up on a hook fell down. Hook's still on the wall. No way for these items to fall off the hook unless lifted off. Doubt you, go to bed. 2 weeks later, .jpg. Wake up to go piss. Pissing, and I hear a tap on the bathroom door. Finish up and open the door. At the end of the hall, see a black figure in a purple cloak. Think nothing of it. Go to bed. I only found out last year that our house was 200 years old, and there was apparently a cult who used the house for rituals back in the day.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Throwing my hat in the kidnapped ring, but in my case it wasn't almost. Playing outside one summer day. Friend's dad pulls up. Hey Anon, wanna come play with my son? Say okay and hop in. Don't tell folks before I go, cause it's just my friend's dad. Doesn't live far and have gone off to play with friends without telling my folks before. Realize not going to the house. Ask why. I wanted to surprise you, but he's up at the cabin with my wife. Worried I'll get in trouble because this isn't across town anymore, but excited for lake and horse riding now at nearby stables. I had been there before on a shared vacation with his and my family. Get to the cabin. My friend and his mom aren't there. Get that feeling in the pit of my stomach. Spend the next 5 days in hell. Finally, he slips up because he's drunk. Doesn't lock the chain on the collar, just attaches it. Wait till he's asleep. Wait even more to make sure he's asleep. Quiet as I can, I slip off my collar. Slowly go for the door, terrified each step will wake him. Get to the door. Open it scared shitless that he'll hear it. Get outside. Run my ass as fast as my little legs can carry me to the first house I see with a car in the driveway. Start banging on the door like crazy. After what feels like forever, someone answers. I just started crying. Dirty, cut, bruised. The guy takes me in, grabs his rifle and calls the cops. Cops arrive and know who I am. Finally safe. Turns out he told his family he was going out of town on business while taking vacation time at work. I still keep in touch with the guy that took me in and saved me. Here's what really creeps me out, though. I still don't know what he was going to do with me at the end of his vacation. I mean, would he have taken me home? Probably not, considering I know who he is and everything. Not to mention there are a lot of woods out there, and a lake.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.